In this video, we're counting down 5 jobs that vanished from history, wiped out by technology, changing habits, or simply time itself. Some of these you might have heard of, others will surprise you. And by the end, you'll never look at your alarm clock, your elevator, or your phone the same way again. Let's get into it. Number 5. Elevator operator. If you've ever pressed a button and waited for an elevator to arrive, you've experienced something that for decades required an entire trained professional to do for you. Early elevators weren't the simple push-button systems we have today. They required manual control, operating a lever to start, stop, and precisely align the elevator car with the floor, which took real skill, since misjudging it could leave passengers stepping over a gap or a ledge. The elevator operator managed this all day, announcing floors, opening the gate, and assisting passengers in and out. In large buildings, especially department stores and office towers throughout the early to mid-20th century, this was considered a legitimate, respectable career. Some operators worked in the same building for decades and became well-known fixtures of that building's daily life. The automatic elevator, with self-leveling technology and simple button controls, began replacing operators through the mid-20th century. By the 1950s and 60s, most buildings had switched entirely to automatic systems, and the job faded out almost completely within a few decades. Number 4. Iceman. Before the refrigerator sat quietly humming in every kitchen, keeping food cold was a serious, physically demanding industry, and at the center of it was the Iceman. Ice was harvested in massive blocks, often cut straight from frozen lakes and rivers in winter, then stored in insulated ice houses to prevent melting through the warmer months. From there, the Iceman's job began, loading heavy blocks onto a delivery wagon or truck and hauling them door to door to households that used an ice box, essentially an insulated cabinet, instead of a modern fridge. This was intense physical labor. A standard block could weigh dozens of kilograms, and Icemen often used large tongs to carry blocks directly on their shoulder or back, delivering to multiple households a day, every single day, regardless of the weather. The invention and mass affordability of the electric refrigerator through the 1930s to 1950s slowly eliminated the need for delivered ice entirely. Once families could make their own ice or simply keep food cold without any ice at all, the Iceman's entire profession quietly melted away. Number 3. Switchboard operator. Here's a job that an entire generation relied on just to make a simple phone call. In the early era of telephones, you couldn't just dial a number and connect directly. Instead, every call had to pass through a switchboard operator, almost always a woman, sitting at a large panel filled with cables and jacks. When you picked up your phone, you'd be connected first to the operator, tell her who you wanted to reach, and she would physically plug a cable into the correct socket to connect your line to theirs. At its peak, this was one of the largest employers of women in the industrialized world, requiring speed, precision, and excellent memory, since experienced operators often memorized entire regional networks of numbers. The rise of automatic telephone exchanges, using dial and eventually push-button systems, slowly phased out the need for a human operator through the mid-20th century. By the late 1900s, direct dialing had become standard worldwide, and the switchboard operator, once essential to every single phone call on Earth, became entirely obsolete. Number 2. Lamplighter. Before electricity lit up our streets automatically every evening, cities relied on a small army of workers whose entire job was to manually light the streets, one lamp at a time. The lamplighter carried a long pole with a small flame or wick at the end, walking a set route through the city each evening to individually light every gas or oil street lamp along the way, and then walking that same route again each morning to put them out. In large cities, this required dozens or even hundreds of lamplighters working in coordinated shifts just to keep the streets lit night after night. It was steady, respected work, often passed down within families, and lamplighters became such a familiar nightly sight that they appeared frequently in literature and art of the era. The introduction of electric streetlights in the late 1800s and early 1900s, which could be switched on and off centrally or automatically, made the job unnecessary almost overnight in major cities. Within a few decades, a profession that had existed for centuries disappeared from nearly everywhere on Earth. Number 1. Knocker-upper. And now, the job that inspired this entire list, arguably the strangest, most personal profession on it. In industrial-era Britain, especially through the 1800s and into the early to mid-1900s, alarm clocks were either unreliable, too expensive, or simply didn't exist yet for most working-class families. But factory shifts started at a precise time, and being late could mean losing your job entirely. The solution? Pay someone to wake you up manually every single morning. This was the knocker-upper. Armed with a long stick, sometimes fitted with wire or stiff bristles at the end, or in some cases a pea shooter to fire dried peas at upper-story windows, the knocker-upper walked a set route through town before sunrise, tapping on the windows or doors of every client on their list until they saw or heard a response confirming the person was awake. Clients paid a small weekly fee for this service, and knocker-uppers took the job seriously. A missed wake-up could cost their client an entire day's wages, or worse. Some knocker-uppers worked entire streets or neighborhoods, waking up dozens of households every single morning, rain or shine, for years. The job survived surprisingly long, with some knocker-uppers still working into the 1940s and even early 1950s in parts of England, right up until affordable, reliable alarm clocks finally became standard in every home. Today, the idea of paying someone to personally wake you up by tapping on your window sounds almost unbelievable. But for generations of working families, the knocker-upper wasn't strange at all. It was simply how the day began.